what kind of structure we have when we get there. So of course, this is just looking at a 2-story single-family dwelling, possibly a multi-family dwelling. But this works for any kind of structure that we're looking at, mainly because we're looking at a couple different things. We're looking at door control, which is what we're going to be able to look at right here in the front. We're going to be looking at flow path. We're going to be looking at uncoordinated attack versus coordinated attack. And then we're also going to be looking at water application and flow path. So the way the structure is built is just 2 4x8 sheets of OSB. It took me 3 because I screwed it up and I had to recut something, so it took me 3 sheets. But yeah, we're looking at about 2 sheets of OSB. It's split up into 4 rooms. So we got room number 1, which is going to be our ignition room. This is where the fire is going to start. We have a sliding door here, so we can be able to control all the way closed, a quarter, half, 3/4, and then all the way open as well. So we can see how that's going to affect our fire development and how we can actually pretty much put the fire out just by controlling it with the door here. In each room, we do have a window. So the door is going to be 10x8. It's supposed to be 10x8. This got flipped up backwards. So this window is 10x8. All the windows subsequent to that one are going to be 8x8. So it's supposed to be a 10x8 door. Then we have 3 windows that are all 8x8. In this one here, between the room 1 and room 2, we do have a barrier that we can remove from the inside. So we can be able to see that flow path from, say we have a door shut on the inside, we can then open up that flow path and see how the fire's going to draw in. Say we open up that interior door, or a family member who's leaving the building might exit out through the inside, and then if we show up or a window fails or a police officer shows up and busts a window, or a neighbor or someone who's not really familiar with our door control policies comes in and busts a window, we're going to see how that fire is going to grow through the building. Same thing here from the 2nd to the 3rd floor. We do have a removable floor as well, so we can see how everything's isolated. It shouldn't get too much spread to be upstairs. Once we remove that, say we have an interior stairwell, then we can see how that flow path is going to increase, especially because heat's going to want to rise. The 4th room is going to be completely encapsulated. There's no doors, so it's as if we're simulating there's another bedroom, uninvolved. That door is shut the entire time. There's no way for any of the fire to get in here except by going through a wall or through some of the cracks. We did put high heat caulking on the inside, so we should have a pretty good seal around. Again, nothing's perfect. Building a box is one of the hardest things to do, so that's what we got right here. Looking for our ventilation, we do have an attic vent on the front and the back. So we got a little attic vent on the front. We have a 6x6 hole, which is going to simulate our truck company popping a hole in the top, and we also have a hole in the inside, 6x6, which is going to simulate our attic space. So when we do actually decide to pop our hole, we can see if we get any kind of fire, smoke, what we're going to actually get out of the top, compared to when our truck company decides to actually punch through the ceiling. We might have some kind of ceiling, plaster. Say this is simulating like an office space and it's actually a flat roof, we might have a drop ceiling in here. That's all going to depend on creating our isolated space up in the attic. So these are all controlled back here by sliders. There's also an attic vent in the back. Again, this is all just Class A materials, so besides the OSB actually put together with synthetic glue. Otherwise, it's all pretty much Class A material. So I don't know if you have like a water bottle or something we might be able to toss in here at some point, and you can see how some of it changes, but we do that as well. So get this going. It should take about 15-20 minutes. Once you get everything lit here.
Not 158. They trip to you now. Feeling about 25.
It's going to take a couple minutes for our wood to actually get going. We just have some paper here, really lightweight material. It's going to burn fairly quickly. things we're also going to want to consider is our flow path of the wind that's on the outside. So if we have any kind of winds, or when our truck company does put that hole in the roof, if we're going to be able to do a louver of some kind, which way we're going to want to consider louvering. We're also considering where the wind's blowing. So if we have wind coming in this way to the structure, it might be feeding inside, and if a window on the exterior on the trolley side gets busted, it's going to increase our fire growth. Let's see if this thing gets going here. We'll see how that goes for now. So again, normally by the time we get to a structure, it's already well involved. At this point, we're kind of being able to watch the initial lighting of the fire, depending on whatever it is. Could be a trash can, could start out as like a sofa, something that's starting out small, maybe next to a building, a cigarette dropped inside a trash can, someone fell asleep on the couch, someone in their bedroom decides to fall asleep while they're smoking, or any number of things that could accidentally happen. So we get our initial development here. We got a little bit of lazy black smoke coming out. It's fairly dark because of the kind of material that we're burning. It's not very hot, so we're actually not getting a whole lot of smoke. If it was burning hotter, we would see it a lot lighter. It'd be burning a lot cleaner. So right now we're just getting some lazy black smoke. We're gonna let this thing keep growing. Just because the fuel load in here needs to get going. So as we keep talking, things that we might consider as we roll up on scene for people like me on the squad, I'm thinking about what my size up might be. So if I roll up and I see this might be something we might be able to attack fairly quickly. Say we get there on scene, I'm gonna think, well, I gotta get my stuff on really fast, because when the engine gets here, we can force entry, there's not a whole lot of smoke going on. Am I considering what time of the day it is? Am I considering like the current situation with the pandemic? We could have lots of people who are at home, nobody's in school, people are out of work, so there's gonna be a lot of people possibly inside the structure. I'm looking at how many cars do we have outside. That's going to give me an idea as to how many possible people we might have inside. Since it's starting on the bottom floor, and I see we got a 2-story building, are the people on the top who might be trapped? Do they have a way out? Are they going to be trying to come down a stairwell? Do they exit out the back? So when I get there on scene, I want to, as a squad, we should get there fairly quickly, especially if it's our own area. I'm going to want to do a good 360 as fast as I can, try to figure out what's going on and let my captain know, or the first team captain know exactly what we got. So for me, I like getting on white, letting my captain know exactly what we got. I don't want to get on blue and make a fool of myself trying to give a good size up of the structure. I would rather figure out exactly what's going on and try to be as efficient as possible as putting that fire out. So if you watch here, we consider we start shutting this down. So that was the door wide open. We shut this down to about a third or a quarter, and we can just slowly watch what our smoke is going to do. See, it starts to lighten up a little bit, starts to get a little bit more wispy. It's a little bit more of a gray color. It's not so much of that black like we saw earlier. This thing's going to slowly start to just suck itself dry. There's not going to be as much oxygen going in. We don't have anything else open. So that's just starving itself right now. And so we have a little bit of crackling. There's still a lot of heat, and we still have a lot of fuel, obviously. See if we actually put it out just by closing that little bit of heat here. So, okay. Thank you. We'll get this thing going here. So, say we get on scene like I was saying, we have this first room is starting to go. It's not a lot of flame that we have right now, it's gonna take a little bit. Once this paper starts going, let's say this window ends up getting open either by sheriff, by us, by a civilian. We can see that there's a little bit of very light smoke. There's not a lot coming out. We're not getting a lot of turbulent flow out of this window. That's because we have a seal on the inside still. That thing's still sealed up, so we're not getting a lot of flow path. That flow is primarily happening just inside this main part of the structure. So if we decide to open up this inside here, and say someone was exiting the structure and they went through a window, or again, someone went in and they decided to try to do a quick search on the inside, we can see how that fire starts to immediately want to suck towards that window. Before, that fire was only on that Bravo side. Right now it's starting to suck towards this Delta side. It wants to come out. So we get a little bit of flame coming out the front, starting to catch a little bit. We shut this door down, and we're looking at our flow path. So right now, that flame is starting to want to come out a little bit, but it's primarily using this as inlet here, and it's using the secondary window as an outlet. We can see by the velocity of the smoke that's starting to come out, it's a little more turbulent, it's a little thicker. It's still kind of white, that's just because of the materials that we have. Want to burn up our oxygen. So as this thing starts to go, you can see it's working through this inside of the number one room entirely. So the walls have caught, all that's starting to go. And just by opening this door for a brief second, you can see how that flame and the heat starts to come out immediately. So go ahead and shut that back down. And you see again, just by a little bit of door control, we're starting to put this out again. Look, a lot of heat coming out, a lot of smoke. But as soon as I open up this door, we get that flame right back. So even though we're shutting this down, that interior door will shut. We start to shut this down about halfway. It starts to die down a little bit. We shut it down a little bit more. It continues just to get a little bit thicker on the smoke, and the flame activity just dies down just a little bit. But now it's using this as an inlet and an outlet. It's trying to draw in oxygen, push fuel out the top. So again, we'll open this up. Get this bottom floor going again. So you can see if you open up our second story, again, not a lot of flow path because we don't have an outlet actually going up there to the top. So if we put a little bit of transitional attack in here, if you notice when I hit it, you see the flame want to shoot out. That's because we're adding not only water, but we're also adding air. We're adding oxygen. It's caught up in the flow path with the water. So as the water is actually entering into the building, we're getting quite a bit of air as well, and it's wanting to shoot all that oxygen. It's feeding that fire briefly. So although we might get an initial drop in temperature, we're also getting an increase because of that oxygen that we're introducing. It's like a Venturi effect. If you guys were considering like putting some water, using water as a ventilation technique through a window, it's almost the same thing. So that's why it's important for our stream to be tight. You don't want to put a fog stream because we're encapsulating even more water. We can put so much air into the structure that we're actually using it essentially as a blower at that point. We're putting so much air in. If we open up a fog stream. All right, so again, that's cool. We're gonna shut this down a little bit. And again, we don't have any introduction to the upstairs because we have that separation still. But you see the flame starting to lick out of the second floor because we're getting more fuel. It's starting to get a little bit hotter in both of our rooms here. So we're gonna open this up. See how much smokier it got when I just shut that a little bit? We still have an exit here, but it got way smokier because it's starting to die down. It's starting to decay a little bit. So we'll remove that second floor. Look how immediately, look at this. See how fast that starts to come out? It's almost immediate because all that heat wants to travel up top. So when you say, hey, let's go and shut this down, get door control going. Let's watch what happens. Door control here, door control here. We roll up. So someone punch out that top window. Little bit of water up here. It's not hot in that room, so we're not doing anything, right? We might think transitional attack. It cooled the room down, but what we did was snuff this fire out just by putting our door control in place. See that fire? We had fire shooting up into this room. Now it's gone. We got nothing left. That's only by putting this window here and by shutting this door. See, we open this back up again. This room's still going, no problem, right? And look at that flame coming right back up. So if we find where the seat of the fire's at, we put a little bit of water in here. It cools everything down. Look, the whole structure is starting to cool down now. And that's helping us out. Now we still got a flame because this room's starting to go, but see that? We don't control the door. We immediately get that growth back in that first floor. And that's where we get that fire coming up into the third. So, we're going to shut this down. See, we got door control working. A little bit more water in here. What else we're doing? Anybody know how much water expands? A gallon of water creates 1,700 gallons of steam. So with that much, we're displacing that layer. So we have our layer, say we got that inversion layer, right? Right now, room 1, not a survivable space. Whoever's in there, that whole room's going. So that's full free blowing, free burning. Room 2, possibly, let's take a look. So negative, right? That whole room's free flowing now too, right? So we're not gonna save anybody out of there. But you see how quickly that comes back? That's just what I'm trying to say here, is how much fire we get just by opening a door, opening a window. It immediately puts out this fire that's in the second floor. Okay, so we're in the second floor, survivable space, possibly. Are we gonna create a rescue, maybe putting a ladder up here? So truck company's thinking, what size ladder do I need to get a rescue for the second floor? Am I on a slant? Can I just put a 24 up, a 22? A 16 is gonna get there. Do I have like a long driveway? Are there cars in the way? So when we put that water into that first floor, what we're doing is also creating that steam, and if we shut the door, we're letting the steam go to work. All right, so let's see here. Truck company shows up, put a hole in, they start to ventilate. I don't know if you guys can see from that angle, but from over here, we're getting a little bit of smoke coming out the top here. Again, we don't have great ventilation coming in because the attic space is still enclosed. So, we're still free flowing in this first room here, still free burning. We got it controlled though, and we got control on that second window. Third window is wide open, and you can see this coming out of here. But we haven't punched through. Engine company gets on scene. They say, hey, you know what? Engine company's here. We're punching through. Line's not charged yet. They haven't pulled the line, haven't masked up. There's no communication. That's uncoordinated attack. They decide to punch through. Look at this smoke. Immediately. You see how thick that got? How fast that came out? That's uncoordinated attack. It's immediately. It's shooting up out of here. Now say engine company opens the door. Hey, we're getting some. Look at this. Fire out of everywhere immediately. That's because we're uncoordinated. Engine company gets on scene. Oh my God. Transitional attack. Put this thing out. You start putting a little bit of water into the front, hitting it into the second floor. We start putting this out a little bit. Take my box here. All right, look at that. So see the intensity of this smoke? See how fast that's coming up? So if we have a louver, we can shut that back up, right, truck company? We give, see this intensity coming out of the front? That's because we shut off that outlet that was up top. Look at this. Little bit of water, transitional attack. We louver back. We shut that oxygen flow for the outlet. We immediately put this thing back in check. We can deal with this. This is no problem. Look, remember before it was blowing out everywhere? We might be thinking we lost this thing. But what I'm looking at is, why don't we just put some transitional attack into it? We can get in there and we can fight this thing. Especially if we can have that louver ability. Now, if we blow a Raptor and we drop the ceiling, well, now we don't have that ability, right? That's why it's important to make sure you roll your Raptors as a truck company. You coordinate well. That way you can keep this thing in check. All right, so here we go. Let's go and open up this last room here. Now, if you remember, the only thing separating that last room, there was no opening to get in there. Look, we got smoke, and the only reason fire is getting in there is because it's extending. So with the door shut, it's creating a survivable space.
220. Really? 220? Oh, shit.
So again, here we go. Let's get this thing going. This is all we got here. We'll open up the roof. Whole front's open. We're starting to lose the box. So everything's on. Look, it's still no fire in that fourth room. That thing's just sealed up. So if you wanted to survive to your family, to the public, to anybody, leaving a bedroom door shut. Look, every other thing is going. We lost the box to the right. Well, look, we've never got fire into that fourth room. Never. So now we get a little coordinated attack. We put some water on it. We got good ventilation. All that heat starting to exit. We got this thing in check. Now, this might not actually be a save because of how long if you let it burn. You see this charged smoke coming out of this vent too? A little bit of fire just because it's hot. The structure itself is actually on fire at this point. And that's essentially all we got here. The box is done. This building's a write-off, but if you guys want to stay, we're having smoked chicken for dinner. That's all we got here. That's the rest of it. So, didn't get a chance to carry the water bottles. It just gets a little more intense, a little more thick. that kind of gives you that idea when I was saying that Venturi effect. See how I'm putting like almost a fog screen? See how much smoke's coming out of this window? Fires out, it might be steam, but we're getting a massive increase of air coming out this window. That same thing happens when you're inside the building. When you're inside the building and you decide, hey, I'm gonna put some water on it. If you don't check your pattern, next thing you know, you're introducing a whole bunch of air, not only water, but you're introducing air, so you're gonna get that difference in the thermal layer. It's gonna wanna affect it because the steam's expanding, but also because you're shoving a whole bunch of air up into the structure.
The bigger one is George. The smaller one is.
That's all I got. Anybody got any questions? Any takeaways? Anything they learned? Anything they forgot that they might have learned? Anything?
So what was the top temperatures you got? 1,000 degrees?
Oh, 3 rooms, yeah. 3 rooms are over 1,000. The one on the left was like, I think the highest I saw was 280. before it
280.
hit the water.
And that's probably like in the middle, maybe?
Yeah, wherever the square landed up on there, yeah.
Yeah, which might be in the middle of the room, you know, in the back wall, which might not have been getting that much heat, you know, whereas you go a little bit lower. Like, there was just that UL study, I don't know if you guys saw it, I was reading it, it was on the counter this morning, I don't know when it got printed. We were talking about different temperatures according to how high they were off the ground, so 2 inches was reading a lot lower than if you were like 16 feet, right? And that's a big difference. But especially in something like this, you're gonna see a big difference in the thermal layer. So, and then we noticed that if you guys remember the phase 1 container, we're sitting 3 feet below the deck. Right at our heads, it was pushing 200, 300 degrees, but we're sitting below that, so we're comfortable. Now, once that room flashes, everything in there's 1,000 degrees, we're not gonna survive. That's why we gotta make sure we keep it in check, stay low, but.
Yeah, when you penciled it with the extinguisher, I think even the fire room went from like 1,100 to like 600. It was
Right.
still not survivable.
Just by touching it with the water can,
with
right.
A little bit of water.
And that room already was unsurvivable because it
Yeah.
flashed. So at that point, it's either body recovery or we're trying to preserve the rooms in the other parts of the house, which is the main point of this whole thing. Especially right now, when we're considering, like I said earlier, we got lots of people that might be inside, they're hanging out, we got kids, babies, people are home, nobody's at daycare, parents are home from work, people sleeping. So, kind of it, we're just gonna watch this thing go out, so.
Awesome drill, Matt.
Thank you.
No, you covered everything that I would have said. Well,